Okay, welcome to Studio 88. I'm here with my friend Jason Lovering. We've been shooting podcasts all day, interviewing different fighters, kind of fight it out. Want to talk about something different. Now, the reason I brought you on the show is because I've known you for 20 years now, and September 11th, 2001, we were partners. We were working together.
Yep.
Him and I know each other as we're armored car drivers. So we were transporting cash from southwestern Ontario to Toronto. Take the cash, we go into a building, cash gets processed, and then we come home. We did this every day. That was our daily job. It was a shuttle truck. September 11th, we're in downtown Toronto, and we hear over the radios. It was a Brinks truck. It was a Brinks truck.
And then 3 stories under their equivalent of the World Trade Center.
Yes, which is on Bay Street. So Here we are in a big building in Toronto. And I remember it going over a Brinks radio because there was a Brinks truck in the bay with us.
Yeah, our competitors,
And we heard they had a radio in the back of the truck, and it was talking about these planes crashing into these buildings. Yeah. And I'll never forget the day. I remember so vividly because it completely changed
everything.
The world as we know it.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought it was an interesting thing because I was with you the day it happened. Yeah. I remember the sky being completely barren of planes.
Which was really weird.
Which was very weird for Toronto.
Yeah.
And I remember the drive home, and I remember there was no cell phones, there was no communication. It was what you just heard on the telephone and what I had seen on the big screens inside the concourse, inside the building downtown Toronto. Yeah. So it was a lot of crying faces and planes crashing into buildings.
Yeah, I remember initially, though, too, the Brinks guys telling us, because remember before we heard it, they were telling us about it, and we were kind of like, oh, come on, bullshit, right? Like, we pulled the other
I didn't believe it. Yeah, we never believed
pulled
it.
the other leg, right? You know, And he's like, no, like a plane crashed into the building. And, and then that's when the shit started, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember being afraid. Yeah. I remember being on edge. Being afraid was the biggest one. Now, apart from that tragic day, let's fast forward to 2019. And we look at all the conspiracies attached to it now and thinking, holy shit, did this really happen? Is this something that the government did? Was it?
Yeah, was it an inside job? Was it the terrorists?
What do you think?
That's a pretty loaded question, actually.
It's a super loaded. It's a super loaded question.
As to what I think about it.
Yeah.
I think initially, because we didn't really know that it was allegedly Al Qaeda or these terrorists. Like, we didn't know if it was the start of World War III. Because remember, initially we thought, geez, maybe the Chinese did it, the Russians did it. Nobody knew, right? Mm-hmm. That was the really scary part about it. In hindsight, though, with all of the reports and things that have come out since, and then we find out from the 9/11 Commission itself, we find out that it was underfunded. Like they only spent something. They asked for $9 million. They were given I think they asked for $11 million over a course of 2 years. Because you got to pay for the witnesses to fly in and paperwork and stenographers and all the people that you need to do a proper investigation. And they kept cutting their funding. Mm. And later on, it turns out there was a few of the senators that were on that commission that put out a book later on saying that we were lied to. People kept changing their stories. Other witnesses refused to testify. Things like that. So then people started asking questions like, oh, well, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, but if everybody asked all these questions, how come nothing ever came about?
Because it's a system. A lot of people try to say, oh, well, if it's conspiracy, how come nobody's talking about it? Well, there's a lot of people talking about it. A lot of people that were involved. You got architects and engineers for 9/11 truth.
So do you think it was? Do you think it was a demolition? Let's get into the dirt.
Well, for the World Trade Center 1 and 2, that's the big ones that we know about. Mm-hmm. That's the ones we all seen on TV. They collapsed. It looked like a controlled demolition. Then an explanation came out saying, well, it was the fuel from the planes hitting it and weakened the structures of the buildings, and they all just collapsed in their own footprint, just like we see in demolitions of any old building. Mm-hmm. Pretty hard to believe. And there's literally thousands of architects and engineers that are saying, no, bullshit. And then there's a group called NIST, which is like a standards organization in the US
Mhm.
that says, oh, well, we use this computer model. And the computer model shows that, yes, it happened that way. But then they refuse to show anybody the computer model. They refuse to show anybody any of the evidence or how they came to that conclusion. They said, oh, well, it's, classified. We can't show you.
Mhm.
So it's like a magic trick.
Yeah, but who pulls those strings and why?
Who pulls them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You got to kind of follow the money, right? See where the cash goes.
Mm-hmm. You ever see that?
Who profits, right?
Exactly. Who profits?
Yeah. Like the Romans used to have a saying called "Que bono,"
Mhm.
because they had conspiracies themselves back when, and it was all political conspiracies, right? Like the plot to kill Caesar, things like that.
Mhm.
And the one question they always asked, that's famous now, is called "Que bono," and it means who profits. So and then fast forward to modern days, like the Sam Spade detective thing, follow the money.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about that?
Um,
Where the money went? Like where? Like when you follow the money in this case.
Yeah, well, when you follow the money, like there's a ton of rabbit holes. Like I've deliberately avoided, like with the Evil Von Scary show and things, like as you know, we cover a lot of political intrigue and things. Like I try to avoid the word conspiracy because it's got such negative connotations to it.
Maybe we should back up a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let's. I kind of jumped into it.
Oh,
it was a Sapporo. The Evil Von Scary show. Tell me about that real quick.
Okay, it's something I started. It was about 2003, and it was an online publication. And just like I just cover popular conspiracies and then delve into them, like just because I wanted to know about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just publish what I found, right? And I try to avoid all the crazy, what we'd consider conspiracy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid that. And
is there any of it that's bullshit?
Oh, there's tons of it. Tons of it that's just crap, and we always try to avoid the BS and the conjecture and everything, and just try to go for, okay, well, look, we have this document here that leads to here. Like, it's still jumping down a lot of rabbit holes, but we just try to stick with what we can prove and try to avoid the conjecture.
Mm-hmm. So what have you weeded out?
My personal conclusion with World Trade Center 1 and 2, it's like too many people pissing in the pool. Like there's just so many people, like people saying, oh, it was lasers or it was holographs and stuff like that. Like come on, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seen that.
You know what I mean?
I seen
like,
one. It was a plane.
Ridiculous.
It was a hologram. It said the plane wasn't real.
Yeah.
Look at the tail of the plane disappear behind the building, and you can see the glip.
You're like, come on,
Yeah, but okay. So what about the Pentagon?
Pentagon? Well, that's a whole different ball of wax. That I don't know if it was a plane or not. Like I'm kind of leaning toward that maybe the plane was controlled somehow, because the remote control technology was there at the time. Mm-hmm. They can do it now easily, and at the time I think they could do it. They could have done it easily. There's a whole bunch of different like fighter pilots and things like that are now airline pilots, and there's a whole bunch of them that have done subpoenas. They're on record saying, no way. That couldn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Like, how do you explain like the no debris?
Well, yeah, like there is some debris. Like there are pieces that say American Airlines whatever on it with some serial numbers. Like there is debris there. Mm-hmm. But where's the wheels? Where's all of the big pieces? Like a whole plane doesn't just disappear because it crashes. And then I think more so with the Pentagon, the problem I have with it is, there was a whole bunch of, like, it was probably one of the most surveilled buildings in the world. And then all of a sudden, we don't have any friggin' video proof. Like they could destroy, if they wanted to, I think, if what they said is true, release the frickin' videos. Mm-hmm. Release the videos to the public. Like, no, here's 4 frames is what they've given you in 2017. They gave you 4 frames, like a 2-second clip. And it doesn't really show you anything. And if anything, there's other people online showing that. And I'm not just some, guy in his back shed that's doing meth or something that's all whacked out, but some people that are seriously in the industry of photo manipulation, things like that, going, well, these photos don't quite work out. It looks like the tail's in front of the cabin and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they're pointing that out, and they're alleging that it's doctored. So if the government was really serious and they were being forthright and honest, release the videos. Mm-hmm. And then you'd blow all this conspiracy crap right out of if it's true, you'd blow all this conspiracy stuff right out of the water and it's done. Mm-hmm. But why haven't they? Like, how many years are we going?
But is it possible that they don't have it?
I don't think so, because the
Like
FBI,
2001,
it's on record
Mhm.
that the FBI confiscated all of those videos, as well as all the videos of like, you know, like variety stores and gas stations and overpasses, like, you know, for when they're toll booths and things like that. They took all of that.
Wow.
So my thing is just release it.
Yeah.
But they don't. So that leads me to believe that, well, then you're hiding something.
Mhm. I would think the same.
You know, well, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, because the video that I saw, it looked like a drone. It didn't look like a plane,
Yeah,
like a passenger plane.
Okay, now the counter argument to that, and then see, that's something I like to present too, though. Like, I like to play devil's advocate a bit with the evidence.
Mhm.
Like, you know, I don't want to just go, oh yeah, it was space aliens and blah blah blah. Like, that's ridiculous. I like to try to stick to the facts. And when you look at those videos and stuff, like, you can't tell. You can't tell what the hell that is. Like, all of a sudden you see something like, oh, I think that looks something cylindrical, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's an explosion. Oh, sorry, kids, end of the movie.
Okay, but go back to the towers. What about the
Mhm.
what about the planes that? Did you see the one that
Like, I
looked
have
like
no,
they had fuel?
I have no doubt that planes hit the towers.
For sure.
No doubt.
No, but were they passenger planes?
I don't see why not.
Like I saw a thing.
I
that
have no.
You can't see
no doubt that
windows.
there
You
is.
can't see. It just looks like a gray blob. It looks like a gray.
Yeah, but they're traveling 500 miles an hour.
Yeah, but that footage, man, is pretty clear.
It's also 2001 camera footage, right? Like,
Which isn't too bad.
Exactly, and
though.
I
it's
think
not too bad, but it's also like we're used to high def.
And it was like what, NTSC or something format?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like, it's not 1080p.
Yeah,
know.
like it was like 1 frame per second kind of thing, or
It's as basic as it gets, really, in like the modern age of video.
These cameras shoot faster.
These ones?
not bad. Oh, nowadays, absolutely.
Yeah, like 100%.
You can get like 40 frames a second or something like that nowadays.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
That's crazy.
it's not like a movie quality, right? Like, that's the thing.
No, absolutely not. No.
You know, it's like listening to old music too. Like, sounds way different.
Because that shit convinces me. When I look at it, I think I go, fuck. I mean, not to be disrespectful to anybody who lost their family and in those
No, well,
planes.
that's,
that was
that's the
case,
whole
if,
thing I
like,
wanted to state with this.
You know what I mean? Like,
is
we
like all
don't
the
know for sure.
exactly, like all the soldiers, the airmen, sailors, Marines, everybody, like all the firefighters, the police, everybody tried to do what they were supposed to do that day, right? They did it all for the right reasons, or what they thought were the right reasons, and I don't want to disparage any of those people. I don't want to besmirch their contributions,
No.
or their sacrifices, or anything like that. And that's why I always had such a hard time with 9/11. And that's why over like, I guess 15 years that I've been doing this, I just didn't want to touch it, because they're like a lot of my fellow veterans are just, there's quite a few of them that are, you even bring up 9/11, you could see it's a sore spot. You see that spark of like, you just see the anger coming up, and it's like the red pill, blue pill moment, right? Like they just don't want to question it, because then they got to question what they did and what they experienced.
Yeah, but with it's all the evidence. Why wouldn't they be screaming for some sort of justice?
Some are. Some are, right? But we have to respect those guys that and gals and whoever, that they just don't want to know, because unfortunately people don't want to know. A lot of people don't. Like, it's very few people that want to know the truth, like, because they're comfortable in their job, or they're, they got their, to be stereotypical, the white picket fence, 2.3 kids. People don't want to mess with that. They got a good thing going. And then so when guys like you and I and whoever go, well, hey, all those things that you took for granted as knowledge and knowing things, and you tell them they don't know shit, or they've been lied to, the reaction, I think, with a lot of people is they feel, oh, what, you're telling me I'm a sucker or I'm stupid? You know what I mean? So you have to be careful how you put the message out, and you got to say, well, no, you're not stupid. You're a loving and an intelligent human being, but you're being lied to. And that's kind of my reason for getting into this, is not to disparage those people, but just to, like, look, man, like, you were manipulated, and you need to know it. And if anything, at the end of the day, just to keep these people honest, or just so that way people are educated about it. And then in the future, you could see these things and go, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't quite jive. Like the whole 2003 Iraq invasion, which was a direct result of the 9/11 attacks. What did that have to do with anything? What did Saddam Hussein and his regime have to do with 9/11? But yet, what
follow the money.
You hear all the time? Yeah, I know, but what did you hear all the time?
Yeah.
You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And when people give you you're either this or that. They give you ultimatums. That's because they're trying to manipulate you, right? My way or the highway. Oh, okay, I'll go along with you. Yeah, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because they're trying to manipulate you.
Now, back to the towers. So I just want to get back to that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned to me online the other day about Tower 7.
Yes.
And you said put the focus on Tower 7.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that is just because like we were talking about all the people that were saying, oh, it's holograms or it's drones or it's this or it's that. Going back to the analogies are imperfect, but it's something we can use to make a complex subject maybe easier to understand. Like, remember when we used to talk about computers, I try to break it down into...
And I still don't understand it.
Yeah, I know, but
I still don't get it.
What I try to do for people is try to break it down into something they understand. Like, say, auto mechanics. I'd say, okay, well, the processor is like your charger, and this is like this. And then they go, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of get it now. The problem with, maybe getting off rails here. With WTC 1 and 2 is there's so many people pissing in the pool. Like, it's just toxic waste now. So I like to try to just almost, not, you got to touch on it, but I try not to focus on it too much because there is so much conjecture and distraction and things like, you know what I mean? There's so much.
You never know what's real anymore.
Yeah, like there's so much there's so much misinformation. But the thing is, even if you read the 9/11 Commission report, they don't even talk about World Trade Center 7. Seriously, I kid you not, man. Look it up. Like I've read the report. WTC 7, they avoided it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Nothing hit it, but still it collapsed. Like
what is it about World Trade 7?
Well, World Trade Center 7, right, was...
Explain to like as if you were someone who has no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, it's just like World Trade Center 1 and 2. Like the Twin Towers are just iconic because they stuck out. Well, World Trade Center 7 is like the third largest one.
Okay.
It might be fourth, but I'm pretty sure it's like the third. It collapsed in its own footprint. Nothing hit it. But then they say it was
like debris from the...
Yeah, people said it was debris from whatever. Oh, okay. Well, even if I dropped a flaming Volkswagen on there full of AMFO, it's not going to collapse in its own footprint. That's ridiculous. Like you'd have to defy laws of physics to make that happen, or demolition it.
Right? That's crazy.
I know, but you've seen the videos.
Yeah, because you've seen
the videos, and it comes down like just boom, like right in its own footprint. And it wasn't a square building. I think it was a trapezoid. So it's like like flat, like the front face would be flat, and then comes on angles like this and goes. And the reason why they built it that way is force strength, right? So a typhoon could hit the thing, and it ain't going down. Like these things were built that way. And then so what? Like a couple of flaming debris hits the roof, and what? The whole thing collapse? Like was it made of paper mache?
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Do you know anything about like what was in what offices were in that building?
Actually, yeah, I do. We have some notes on that. Starting right off the top, we got Salomon Smith Barney, which is a financial institution.
What is that?
They trade in commodities, things like that. They're money people, right? IRS Regional Counsel was in there. That's the Internal Revenue Service. That one I don't put as much emphasis as some of the other people looking into the World Trade Center incident there. U.S. Secret Service, well, they got millions of offices everywhere. I don't really look at that too much. The one that sticks out is the CIA. But everything they do is all,
You never know what
the hell those guys are doing, right? Like we used to call them Christians in action. It was as a euphemism, right? Like, because a lot of times they used to hide behind, Christian Children's Fund and things like that. Like,
Really?
And you never know who was an actual legit, somebody there to help out refugees and displaced persons and things like that. And then you find out, oh, geez, like a third of them are all freaking CIA people. So the big one that I found most interesting was the Securities and Exchange Commission that was in there.
Okay, what is that?
SEC. Now, what they are is kind of like the police for Wall Street. Or like the FBI for Wall Street. They keep an eye on all the things going on Wall Street to make sure that if anything's squirrely going on, they investigate it. In that building was I think it was 1,400 different investigations going on with Wall Street and questionable transactions, and they were all stored there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good motive, right? Something to,
Motive, yeah. If you want to look at it like from a cop perspective, yeah,
Mhm.
like, you know, that building gets pulled. Nobody was in it apparently either, though.
Mhm.
Like, it was evacuated before any of this stuff went down, and I'm like, oh, what? They just told you guys not to show up for work one day?
was it
But
like
leave all the files in there and the computers and everything, and then the whole thing comes
Yeah.
down, and oh well, we can't investigate Bear Stearns, we can't investigate all these other crooked banks
Mhm.
because the evidence just disappeared because the building came down. You know,
follow the money?
follow the money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my sponsor, Rycor Countertops. They deal in custom countertops in quartz, Corian, Meganite, laminate, and butcher block. They also have custom kitchen cabinetry, closets, laundry rooms, and millwork. They're family owned and operated for 18 years, knowledgeable and highly experienced staff, and friendly customer service. Head on over to 1069 Clark Road. Check out their showroom today. Okay, now take me back to some of these more rabbit holes. Like, what else did you find?
Well, there's a lot of coincidences, like just the most obvious one, like that 3 towers, 1, 2, and 7, that are steel superstructured buildings. The only time in history that those type of buildings have collapsed into their own footprint, other than demolitions, but from fire, all happened on the same day. So it's, take of that what you will, but I call that happens once, twice, that's a coincidence. Happens 3 times, you got to kind of start asking yourself questions.
No, okay, so hold on. Say that again.
Okay, they're steel superstructured buildings, right? Like
3.
steel skeletons.
Okay, yeah,
3
yeah.
of them.
Okay.
1, 2, and 7.
Yep.
The only time in history, building history, that I'm aware of, that they've ever collapsed in their own footprint due to fire. Because there were similar buildings, like not too long ago, a few years ago, in Madrid, in Spain. Same style building, burned for like days. Still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the framework was still there. Didn't collapse in
Yeah,
its
but
own
a
footprint.
fire would be different than a jet going into the side of
yes,
the building.
Correct. But the actual temperatures over those days when it burned reached higher temperatures than what was listed by NIST from the planes hitting those buildings.
Yeah, but you don't think the structural integrity of the building was compromised as soon as the plane took out all the floors, and then
Yeah, but
maybe with the flames?
But it was,
because it's not just like an office
it took out
fire.
3 floors out of what, 117 friggin' floors.
Yeah.
So
big
what,
head's a heavy building,
2%, not even
Yeah.
structural integrity damage.
Mm.
Like, these things were built to stand typhoons. You know, they were built for planes to fly into them by accident and
Well,
things like that.
plane flew in them before, didn't it?
Yeah, I
the
think that was
90s, I
in the
think.
40s, like late 40s. Like, I think
Oh,
it was
one of
like
those,
a
like,
World War II, like a bomber type of, like a propellered plane.
Real
Like,
small
it was
plane, just like
small in comparison to a 747, but weight-wise, maybe like half the weight.
Mhm.
Right? So yeah, that did happen, but I think that was like the Empire State Building, but like, similar idea though, right?
Mhm.
Steel superstructure and things like that. So
Oh yeah, you're right. It was the Empire State
Yeah.
Building.
oh, the other one was Shanghai,
Mhm.
similar kind of building, right? Burned for days, didn't collapse. You know, they actually had to tear it down later,
Mhm.
right? Same thing though, right? So same idea, like temperatures super hot, even hotter than 9/11. Didn't collapse.
You think the new government now, like Trump,
Hmm.
knows the insides about all that stuff? You think that stuff is shared? Like, do you think it's
okay? Well,
politics, or do you think it's something bigger than that?
Here's the problem with Obama, all the people that came afterward, right? Like Trump, whatever, is that there is a lot of players in his, like, sort of, lack of a better word, like his entourage,
Mhm.
like his national defense secretary, people like that. There's a whole bunch of them that were part of a group called PNAC. And you'll hear that in a lot in the conspiracy things. Like, they just bring it up, and a lot of people are like,
What's
what
that?
the hell? Yeah, exactly. Most people are like, what's that?
Mhm.
It was a think tank and also a policy group. So the think tank comes up with ideas, and they think, well, America should do this or do that in, say, the Middle East, or so they come up with kind of policies and guidelines, and the government may or may not adopt them, depending on how influential they are. Well, the thing is with the PNAC group, it stood for Project for the New American Century, which, it's not necessarily nefarious. Like, they're very, hey, we're the top of the world and whatever. So, don't worry so much about that. But the problem with a lot of the people that were part of PNAC, almost all of them all went into government or came out of government and went back into government, and they've advised all the presidents, including Bush, Obama, and Trump. So don't look at it so much as, well, maybe you're not. Like, I don't want to, put words in your mouth. It's not so much the Republican Democrat kind of thing. Like it's, these people are beyond that. Like the whole Republican and all that's like window dressing. It's the curtains, right? These people are the rest of the foundation of the house.
Who are they?
Can you just tilt that mic up a little bit?
People would call them like the deep state.
Yeah.
Is a term. I think it was originally brought up to describe the Turkish government years ago. The idea being that they're bureaucrats that aren't elected. They don't leave. Like, you're in that job and that's the job you have. And they consider them the deep states. And that's the kind of people that actually do
I've heard that term before, deep state.
It's sort of the people.
But I've never actually questioned
it's like the cogs in the machine, the wheels, the belts, right? They keep things going.
Someone's writing the speeches. Someone's telling them what to say, telling them what to do.
The speech writers.
It's all the same.
Yep, absolutely. So the whole Democrat-Republican dichotomy, like the idea, is really, I don't want to use too many big words like superfluous or whatever, right? Like it's fugazi. It doesn't mean anything, right? At the end of the day, because a lot of these agendas and things are already decided years ago, and it's just how the current government decides to implement those things that somebody went, yeah, we're going to do this.
Because I heard a thing, and who said it? If your vote mattered, they wouldn't let you vote.
I've heard that. I still think your vote matters. Like more so on municipal level, like your town, your village, your and I think that I like to think that it matters.
So,
right?
Don't want to stray too far, but let's go back to September 11th and let's talk about these people that pull the strings for these governments to do those things. What would their motive be? To destroy buildings. To kill all those innocent
then that takes us back to that project for a new American century.
Okay.
With the PNAC, I just want to make sure I get the correct document, but I guess we could put that in the show notes later. But anyway, they put out a document that essentially outlined how America is going to move forward and basically be the top people. Like they call it a unipolar world, which means like one power is controlling the world. And that takes you into a lot of people look at that like the New World Order, being that America is like the number one power. People don't question them. They have all the abilities to do whatever the hell they want, basically. So this group PNAC put out a document, and it outlined a whole bunch of things. And the one that kind of got people scared, to paraphrase them, is they said, we need a polarizing event like a new Pearl Harbor in order to be able to do all of these things that we've outlined in our document.
Wow.
And this came out years before 9/11. And the thing is, all of these people on that group that all signed on to this document were all parts of the government later on, like national security advisors. So these guys are all the advisors to the president and the people that are deciding things and making things happen.
You think it's that big?
No, it is. Like, that's an actual document. You can download it right now if you want. Like it's a matter of public record.
That's so scary.
But people don't look into that, right? They care about the Kardashians, or they care about the news, or like the sports news, whatever have you. Like the distractions. Nobody wants to know actually how the government works, really. Except for weirdos like me and you and whoever else, right?
That's why I wanted to talk.
Just because we're nosy, right? We want to know what's going on, right?
Now, do you think these, we'll call them the elite?
Yeah, for lack of a better word. Yeah,
for the elite.
Because they are. They are.
Do you think
elite.
they're connected with other elite in other countries and?
Yeah, like
China, Russia.
Yeah, like you hear about groups like the Bilderberg Group and things like that, and it's funny because like the Bilderberg Group, for instance.
What's that?
It's essentially a group that meets every year, and they change the locations, and they are public now. But they say that we're just a discussion group, that they use something called Chatham House rules, that you can discuss anything you want, but anything that's discussed at the meeting cannot be told to the press, or you can't talk about it in Parliament, or you can't talk about it in Congress or whatever. So essentially all these people, like captains of industry, political leaders, military leaders, bankers, leading technology people like Bill Gates, for instance, they all get together and they have a meeting once a year.
Billionaire boys.
Yeah, essentially. But even more so than that, like a lot of movers and shakers and influencers. and they have a meeting every year, and they, have a discussion groups and things like that, and then they all go home. But the thing is, when you start taking a look at, like, sometimes their stuff gets leaked because sometimes somebody goes there and goes, wow, man, this is just fricked up. Like, what the hell is this club, right? Like, they and
Caught
then
onto it.
yeah, they caught onto it, and, like, because not everybody that goes there is evil, or even the people that act evil there, like, they're not necessarily evil. Like, they think they're doing the right thing, I'm sure, right? But they just think they know better than you and I, because we're just the peasants, right? They're the elite, right?
Nah, that's crazy.
But yeah, so that's the thing. But the Bilderberg, I'm not going to get into Bilderberg with 9/11 because I have never found anything that actually ties that group to it. But it just happens to be that there are people that have attended those groups that happen to be influencers in and around 9/11. So I'm not saying the group had anything to do with it itself, but there are people that were part of the group that did have things to do with it, or that profited from it, etc.
Do you think we'll ever have another 9/11?
I hope not.
So, I mean, something like that is super hard to predict. It's not that you can
Absolutely,
you can
yeah.
actually
You
predict it,
you can't predict that with any
but,
kind of certainty.
like,
no.
do you see any other agenda? Like, what is the
Well,
end
I-
agenda
I-
was to what, get into Iraq?
Yeah,
and
well,
maybe
absolutely.
Afghanistan.
And the PNAC documents outlined that very specifically. So the invasion of Iraq and the invasion of Afghanistan was already on the desk before 9/11 even happened.
And what are they talking about now? What's
Well,
next?
and then and then we get back to that PNAC thing saying we have to have another, Pearl Harbor type event to polarize people, to bring everybody together in order to let us do the invasion of Iraq, go into Afghanistan, start controlling little third world countries that we don't agree with and things like that. And you've been seeing it ever since. Also surveillance. Like, before 9/11, it was a conspiracy theory that the government's listening to your phone, or they're watching what you do for porno on the computer. And then with Ed Snowden, we find out it's true. Right?
What do you mean? Explain that to somebody that may not know
Okay,
about
well,
that.
Ed Snowden, he was an analyst, contractor for the CIA and later the NSA, the National Security. Anyway, but they're the guys, the techie people, right? Kind of like their intelligence. They monitor phones and traffic, and they try to predict any kind of terrorist attacks and things like that. With the 9/11, there was a group called Able Danger. Okay, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But with the program that Ed Snowden blew the whistle on, because he was right there, like, he's in the computer rooms, he's seeing the stuff in real time. And this whole PRISM program was what he talked about, was actually like, in real time, they could watch your phone, they could listen to you, they could track where you're going, they could watch all your financial records going in and out and things like that. So essentially, like a total surveillance state where they, anything you do, they know what you're doing.
And that was a direct result because of 9/11.
Yeah,
the
well,
tightened
and
security,
no, but they were doing it already. But because of 9/11, they brought out the Patriot Act, which now made it legal. Right? So the Patriot Act said, okay, yes, you can violate the Fourth Amendment. And
how come that was never, how come it's not fought?
people did.
And lost.
And they lost.
Yeah.
They lost because
Can't fight the machine.
Well, you can. You can, absolutely you can. But it's, like, if you
Disconnect.
but if you've ever had any, not necessarily, no. Like, if you've ever been in any kind of legal action, or anybody that's watching this or listening to this, that's been, say, through a divorce or a bankruptcy or whatever, like, those lawyers, the minute you talk to them, the meter's running. So going back to, like, you say, well, why didn't people fight this? People have, but people don't have bottomless pits of money, whereas the government does. So when you go against the government, you're losing the minute you walk in.
Yeah, not enough money to fight it.
Like, it's literally an uphill battle. Like, or the old, you can't fight City Hall. Well, you can, but you got to be smart about it, and you got to have people willing to help you. And the problem with the 9/11 stuff is it would get so far, and then when it looked like these people were going to win, groups like the CIA, FBI, or whoever the interested party was for that particular little thing they were looking into went, National Security, Patriot Act, close it down. And they closed it down because Patriot Act was an executive bill signed in by the president. Right? So you can't argue that. Right? But then, and then you start getting in all these blacks, like, just all these crazy rights violations, and then they hide behind the Patriot Act. Right? So 9/11 was a direct result of that. So that paved the way because everybody was scared. You know, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists or, you know.
Wow.
So it's a polarizing event that was able to bring in all these other things that nobody even blinked an eye at because everybody's like shitting their pants going, oh my God, you know, like the fucking bin Ladens are in my backyard ready to kill me at any minute. You know?
Meanwhile, they didn't even kill him.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
didn't
like
even
but
kill
that's the other funny thing. Yeah, you're right.
They
Because
didn't
like
kill him.
apparently, like if you look at bin Laden's wanted poster, you can see it online right on the FBI website.
Yeah.
And just for any listeners, don't be afraid to go to the CIA or the FBI website. They actually got quite a few things. I was shocked how candid they were with a lot of old documents.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, believe it or not. But who takes the time?
No. I wouldn't go FBI.
I did.
No.
What the hell?
Yeah.
You know? What are they going to do?
Nothing.
What are you going to do? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know? Like maybe I influenced.
So
maybe,
Bin Laden's picture. What were you saying?
yeah. With Bin Laden's picture. So Bin Laden was never directly responsible for 9/11. That's just a bunch of bullshit there that you heard on the news. You know? And I don't think that's necessarily a secret agenda or anything like that. It's just the news is there to keep your attention and to sell you shit. That's why, like, you know, there's 5 minutes or a commercial for every 3 minutes of freaking programming, right? They're there to sell you shit.
You see, I don't watch TV.
Oh,
So
good.
I miss.
And that's why probably you got a brain in your
Like
head, right?
I miss all of it, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
I work
you know
a
what?
lot.
And I'll watch. You know, and even knowing that though, I'll still tune into CNN just because I want to see. I want to see what they're trying to sell people.
I haven't seen CNN. I haven't watched CNN since like Obama won.
Yeah.
Presidency. That was probably like the
Yeah,
last
because
time. Like, I actually
that's kind of
'cause it
where
was
they
like,
started getting stupid too,
yeah, it
and
was
you're just
kind
like,
of like
come on, you know?
it was New Hope.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal.
Yeah, and that's too bad, eh? Because I think a lot of people kind of did have hope, like, you know, like myself included. Like I thought, hey, right on, you know, it's a fresh face. This guy, you know, he's intelligent, he talks well, you know, good looking guy, you know, he sold us.
Yeah.
You know,
Drop 2,000 bombs a day.
Yeah, and then he turns out to be like he turns out to be
2,000
like the
bombs.
Terminator version of all the presidents,
Yeah.
right? Like he's just killing people everywhere, right?
I think he even joked.
But he looked good on TV though, right? So
He was good.
everybody
I liked him. He was
he got a
funny.
free pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the 9/11 stuff? What other 9/11 stuff has affected the way things are today?
Well, mostly it comes down to just like, you know, like that shocking incident, right? So everybody's shocked, and then while everybody else is like just dumbfounded, you know, it's just like think of it like a magic trick, right? Like, you know, like, hey, look at this little bird I got over here. Meanwhile, then I'm hiding the hoop in the hat or, you know, or whatever, right? It's about distraction. Like if you ever watch Penn and Teller, they tell you right up front it's about distraction, and then they distract you while they're telling you that they're distracting you, and you don't even see it. So I kind of see it almost something like that, right? Is just because it was so shocking, because almost all of us were like, oh my God, you know, like who's this Bin Laden guy? Like who's all these terrorists, and why do they hate our freedoms and whatever, right? Nah. Yeah, it just turns out it's all bullshit. It's a big distraction to push in all these other agendas.
This podcast is brought to you by Sun Tanning Salon. Do you suffer from eczema or psoriasis? You have acne or sore muscles? Head on in today and visit the tanning beds. They got regular and mega stand-up beds. Get that beautifully tan look that you're looking for. They also offer natural Mystic Spray Tan. You can also purchase premium products such as Australian Gold, California Tan, Designer Skin, and Swedish Beauty. There's many different packages to choose from, 6-session package or a 30-day pass, even single sessions. Sign up today in your membership and get $70 worth of product. They're located across from Masonville Mall in the Wendy's Plaza at 60 North Centre Road, London, Ontario. Visit Sun Tanning today.
Well, yeah, a couple interesting facts. You know, don't necessarily have direct correlation, but they are, you know, like it's up there with that's kind of suspicious, right? Going with the whole 9/11 theme, on 9/11, 1990, George Bush gave his toward a New World Order speech right before the first Gulf War.
I remember something. I seen something about that. What?
Well, a lot of people used it for mixes and stuff, you know, like a New World Order, you know, and things like that. So it's essentially the same thing as the PNAC.
So it's like they're not lying to us either.
No, not necessarily.
They're pretty much kind of blatantly telling you that.
They're kind of putting it right in your face.
Yeah, because there ain't shit you can do about it.
Yeah, like
all.
A researcher I met like 20 years ago kind of thing. You know, back when it was, what did we have for, it wasn't even Google back then. It was like, you know, like Netscape and things like that, right? So I used to be part of a group that was a Yahoo chat kind of thing. And that's how I got kind of into the conspiracy stuff. he said he tried to make the analogy of imagine you're walking in a busy city, and you don't know what the signs mean, and you don't know that green means go and red means stop. He said it's kind of like that with these guys. They understand the traffic directions, and everything's right in your face. They're not hiding it from you, but it's not their fault if you don't know how to read a traffic light. You know what I mean? And then that's kind of what it is. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a neat analogy, you know?
Yeah. Now, the Evo Von Scary show, I just want to touch base on that real quick, too. What other stuff do you cover on that?
Essentially, like, the greatest...
Because I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah, oh, absolutely,
and I don't want to
we kind of covered, the greatest hits, right? But more so we kind of stick to the political intrigue, right? Like things where we can, get witnesses, drop a document.
Like what, for example?
For instance, like the Jeffrey Epstein thing, right?
Okay.
Other things.
I don't know much about that. Fill me in.
Okay, Jeffrey Epstein, he was allegedly a financial guru, kind of wizard guy.
Some billionaire, I know that.
Yeah, billionaire
I know,
guy. He traded on New York Stock Exchange and stuff like that for a group. But the thing is, though, nobody, when you interviewed anybody from Wall Street, nobody actually ever knew anybody that he did transactions with, which is the weird thing. So that starts at weird there. When if you go for the follow the money angle. He only ever had one client.
Who's the client?
His client, we don't want to make sure I get his name right here. Just so, a guy named Leslie Wexner, also known as the richest man in Ohio, a Republican guy, which is funny because Epstein was allegedly a Democrat, right? That's where I kind of mentioned before that the whole Democrat and Republican thing is just fugazi. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
it's money.
Funny.
Money talks.
So what's his?
Well, with Epstein there, so he got nailed for essentially running like a sex trafficking thing there,
with
right?
Kids.
With kids, yeah, with underage girls, and then all these billionaire people would show up.
How did he get caught?
Well, somebody ratted him out, right?
Okay, because I don't know much.
Yeah,
about
no.
it.
So
I don't watch
okay. Well,
TV
like
as
a
much.
couple of years back, he got charged, and they gave him a sweetheart plea deal. And the prosecutor at the time, or he said something to the effect later on when he was getting interviewed for government, said something to the effect because they said, oh, what's the case with that? And he said, well, it's above my pay grade, and I was told he was intelligence. So we cut the deal. So somebody bigger than him in the government at the time said, make this go away, give him some probation, work release, and whatever, and then we just...
So he's been dinged for this before?
He's been dinged for it before.
I said I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else? So he got dinged again.
Yeah, he got dinged again, like fast forward to now.
Yeah.
He got dinged again, and it was even bigger, and then there was more people named, and now there's...
Like who named?
Prince Andrew, for the royal family of the United Kingdom. Bill Clinton was named as somebody that knew him. But the thing is, though, this guy knew a lot of people, right? So just because you know him doesn't necessarily... it doesn't mean you're a diddler, right? For lack of a better word, right? Yeah. The guy knew hundreds of people.
Yeah.
But there are some people, though, when you look at the flight logs and stuff of his little jet, was jokingly called Lolita Express, which is pretty sick in itself if you think about it, right?
What do you mean, Lolita? Why is it sickening?
Because it's like a old term, like a French thing for, it was named after like a French film about some guy that loved a 12-year-old girl.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like a classic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. So they used to call this thing the Lolita Express, and he had a private island where he'd have these, like orgy parties and cocaine and everything else, and a bunch of underage girls going around servicing people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's a real piece of shit.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking total piece of shit. Yeah. Doesn't get any worse than that.
You think he was murdered?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
Because he knew too many people.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the guy had all this money. He had intelligence connections.
Why, you think he's going to squeal?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Like this guy was like
living. Or why take chances?
This guy was living the Richie
like,
Rich lifestyle. Like, it was private yachts and caviar for breakfast, right? And then he's looking at a 45-year stint as a 60-year-old man. You're not surviving that.
No, he's dead.
So yeah, he was going to roll. Absolutely. And then with all the intelligence connections and the banker connections that he had, it's just a matter of like, people say, oh, the CIA did it, the Clintons did it. Nah, they didn't do it. It could have been anybody.
So? Yeah.
No.
I seen a meme
I don't think
with
so.
Hillary Clinton that said Be careful, I'll kill you.
Oh yeah, those are hilarious.
Jeffrey Epstein's last visitor is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of those
they got-
like
yeah.
glasses and mustache things.
Yeah, you know, that goes to the Clinton body count conspiracy, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny as hell, but you know, but of course, you know, like you don't, you know, if you actually know anything about it, you don't really believe that, you know.
What else do you cover on your show?
You know, like banking conspiracies, like the BCCI, which was found out to be like it was a bank back in the 80s and 90s, funded a lot of like really screwy black ops and things like that, and it had like connections between like CIA, British MI6, the KGB, like you know, like everybody, like didn't matter who you were. They weren't on a side. They were just bankers. They funded drug cartel money. The Pope of the time was allegedly pulled into it, you know. So, but we try to, you know, use all the documents and just lay it all out for people, right?
I wonder what a history book would look like in 2100.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
It'd probably just be a computer disk that you put on top of your head, and you know, like the Matrix there, where you say, "I know kung fu," right? Like, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to get you back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that we come back on and talk more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let people know where they can find you.
Oh, okay. It's evilvonscary.com. Yeah, EVIL Von VON, and then scary SCARY.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Cool.
and we're on Facebook, Twitter, you know, and then
What's the Twitter
internet. Evil Von Scary.
Evil Von Scary.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, check it out. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having
it
me.
means
Jim.
that I don't mean to cut it short. It's been a long day, and our camera's about to die.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll catch up. Maybe we'll come back in and we can talk some other juicy stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And,
looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jane.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.